Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ba'd. Assalamu alaikum. So today we have a new chapter on menstruation. It's a little sensitive, but we want to make it a very short and simple intro. Perhaps we can go back in the future and do like the usual methodology of breaking it through the other like we have done before. So to start this, let's go through today 5 specific topics: the importance of the chapter of menstruation and its particularities and peculiarities. Secondly, the definition of menstruation and or woman's blood. The third is the blood. What is the blood of menstruation and its description, and then a quick conclusion of what is the youngest age for a woman to have her menses and the oldest age for a woman to have her menses. So the first one, the importance of al-hayd, of menstruation. It's and this will cover not just the menstruation but the postnatal blood. So after a woman delivers, she does have blood, and what is the rulings of that. So the importance of menstruation. It is in fact one of the most important subjects of fiqh for everyone, not just for women but for the men as well. So everybody should have not just a familiar knowledge, but they should try and master the particularities of this topic. And again, not just for the women but for the men as well. So for the woman, if she's not knowledgeable of the topic of menstruation, she will become knowledgeable about making sure that she understands her requirements for salah, fasting, tawaf, going to hajj, the affairs that pertains to her tahara and her conjugal relationship. And if the man is not knowledgeable of this topic, so the importance of the man having to know this is that he will not be aware of certain issues. For instance, the issues of divorce, the issues of al-iddah, the period that comes after the divorce, as well as the marital intercourse. One of the scholars, and he's a Hanafi, Ibn Nujaym al-Hanafi, and I love to go back to Google and see who these people are. He passed away in 926 Hijrah, and he is buried close to As-Sayyidatu Sakina bintu al-Husayn alayha salam. The fascinating thing about the scholar is that he passed away at the age of 43, and he left behind a great legacy of students and also books that he has written. He said concerning menstruation, وَضَرَرُ الْجَهْلِ بِمَسَائِلِ الْحَيْضِ أَشَدُّ مِنْ ضَرَرِ الْجَهْلِ بِغَيْرِهَا. The danger of the ignorance in this issue of menstruation is more serious than the harm done to not knowing, the ignorance of other issues of fiqh. So it is a very difficult topic. It is a very, for women, they know what they're doing, they know what it is, but for scholars to master this is a very difficult topic to master. It is Imam Ahmad radiallahu anhu, the great Imam, he said in fact, كنت في كتاب الحيض 9 سنين حتى فهمته. I spent 9 years trying to master this entire topic. Only after 9 years I was able to finally master this topic. And Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi, obviously everyone knows Nawawi. He says, يعلم أن باب الحيض من عويس الأبواب ومما غلط فيه كثير من الكبار بدقة مسائله ويعتنى به المحققون وأفرادوه بالتصنيف. This chapter is one of the most difficult chapters, and many of the great scholars have made mistakes, because of the accuracies and the meticulous issues within the topic. And so we will find scholars in history, throughout history, that have specified, that have dedicated volumes specifically for like independent works and studies just for this topic. And why is this topic so difficult? Because it is specific to women. So women know about it, but fuqaha have not, most of them are men, and we have a very little number of women fuqaha, okay, al-faqihat minhunna qilla. There are only, compared to men, less faqihat. And as for the male scholars, the fuqaha, for the men in general, they don't have the first-hand experience. Obviously, they don't have the first-hand observation of these things, even if it was accessible to them. So when we have these questions regarding, like I'm giving you examples, taking the pills to delay the phase, the period, the menstrual period, the faqih unfortunately does not have access to the trusted medical professionals who can help him formulate proper rulings, proper jurisprudent rulings, fiqhi rulings. And we are being told that these professionals, these specialized medical authorities, can in fact categorically help the scholars, the fuqaha of fiqh, come to a consensus on certain topics where there are differences of opinion. So and giving you a very quick example is, can a pregnant women have a period? So scholars, fuqaha differ in this, but if we were to refer to the medical professionals, we may have an answer. Another example is, can a woman have more than one period in one specific month? So things like that, if we refer to the professionals, to the medical professionals, the scholars of hadith and fiqh, will be able to come up to a consensus between themselves. And the other reason why we don't have, it's a bit difficult topic, is we don't have specialized books on the topic, even though, and Nawawi said that it's because it's a difficult topic. A lot of scholars have produced independent studies. Still, we don't have enough books to cover this topic. Al-Imam al-Darimi, and this is a scholar of hadith in the 2nd century, he only died 20 years after Imam Malik. Imam al-Darimi said, and this gives us a light, a look on what the situation was 200 years after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. He says, "Al-Haydu kitabun da'i'un lam yusannaf fihi tasnifun yaqumu bisihhatihi." It's scary, okay? We have a lot of hadith which are authentic, but he's telling us that al-hayd, menstruation, is a chapter, it's a book that is lost, that we have not given it so much attention. Of course, after that, this has changed and we have become more attentive to it. So these are very, very short and easy presentations and introductions, just so that it makes it easier for us to get into this, inshallah. The other topic of item that we want to cover is the definition of al-hayd. Linguistically, al-hayd, and I'm not going back to Google, you can do it on your own. Al-haydu lughatan huwa sayalan ad-dam. It is the flow, the natural and healthy flow of blood. And again, here it's not irregular or sick. It is a natural and healthy flow of blood. Well, istilahan, the technical definition of this terminology, في الاصطلاح عرفه إمام ابن جوزي the Maliki. So let's go and see what Ibn Juzay has said in the definition of al-hayd. I'll read it once in Arabic, and then I will take one word at a time and explain it, and that will give us the entire definition of al-hayd. هو الدم الخارج من فرج المرأة التي يمكن حملها عادة من غير ولادة ولا مرض ولا زيادة على الأمد. So الدم الخارج من فرج المرأة, it's the blood, clearly the blood that comes out from the uterus of the woman. So if it's not blood, So it's just the blood. If it's not blood, then it's not menstruation. Like if it's pus, okay, and only from the uterus. So it has to be blood coming out from the uterus. The next one, التي يمكن حملها. So any woman who is able to become pregnant, so someone who has reached the age of maturity and is able to have children, babies. So anyone who is not younger than a certain age is not able to have the menstrual blood. من غير ولادة. So it doesn't include postnatal blood. Okay? So the menstrual blood is not the postnatal blood. They have the same rulings, they're very similar. ولا مرض ولا زيادة على الأمد. And not a medical condition. So it's not the blood that resulted from injury or hemorrhage. Okay? Hemorrhage, which is ruptured blood vessel. It's not that. It's something which it's the natural, healthy blood flow from the uterus of a woman. So if it's a hemorrhage, it is not menstrual blood. ولا زيادة على الأمد, meaning that any blood beyond the normal duration. There's a period. It's called. That's why it's called period. If there is an extension of that period, then it's not menstrual blood. If it keeps extending, there's a limit to that menstrual period. ولا زيادة على الأمد. So if it's beyond that many number of days, then it's not menstrual blood. As for the types of blood, the types of menstrual blood, أنواع دم الحيضة أو الحيض, the different types of menstrual blood. The first one is الدم الأسود, the black blood, الدم الأسود, and this is related to as well the brown blood, which is old blood, and it may resemble coffee grounds. I got this from Google. So the black blood is usually blood that has taken time to leave the uterus. Okay, so we have black blood, and then the proof of that is in the Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It said, إذا كان دم الحيض فإنه أسود يعرف فامسكي عن الصلاة. إذا كان دم الحيض فإنه أسود. If it's the blood of menstruation, then it is black. It is black, and women know that. They know what it is. So when that happens, don't do your salah. فإذا كان الآخر فتوضئي وصلي. If it is not that, if it's another type of blood, then you can do your wudu and you can do your salah. So if it is black, it could also be red, okay, and it can also be red. It is not bright red, likely to look more like brown. So we have black and brown, okay, very very dark brown. So again, going back to Google, it tells me that this brown blood is a sign of old blood that had time to oxidize, which explains its changed hue from the red, from the normal color of blood, and it is associated with the beginning or the end of the period blood. So this blood may also be left over from the previous period, okay? And this, between the black blood and the brown blood, this represents the first category of blood, menstrual blood, which is included in the hadith that I've mentioned earlier. The second type of blood is الصفرة والقدرة. الصفرة هو الشيء كالصديد تعلوه صفرة, and you will find this definition anywhere you go. All the books will mention this definition of الصفرة. الصفرة is a sadid. A sadid is dirty water, and on top of it is yellow. والقدرة is also humidity, like a dirty water, and it's not blood. شيء كدر, okay, ليس على ألوان الدماء. It doesn't look like blood at all. And these are whatever we've mentioned, the first and the second, the black and the brown, and الصفرة والكدرة والقدرة, they all fall under the menstrual blood, and it falls under the hadith from Ibn Abi Alqama, a famous hadith of Ibn Abi Alqamah, he quotes his mother who was serving Aisha radiallahu anha. He said the meaning of the hadith is that people came to Aisha radiallahu anha bidam al-haydati, he said bidirajati fiha al-kursuf. They would come to her with a vessel and inside of it is a cotton to show Aisha radiallahu anha, so she can tell them whether this represents menstrual blood or not. فَتَقُولُ, so if it is in that specific color, الصفرة بالصفرة, okay, الصفرة, she would say لا تعجلنا حتى ترين القصة البيضاء. Don't hasten, don't pray yet until you see the white, the white water, or the white humid water, or it resembles also plaster, wet plaster. So until the whatever comes out, and the women know this as well, whatever comes out is free from those colors that are representing menstruation. So this is the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha. There are many other hadith. In this hadith, Asma is sitting with her nieces, and they ask her. They come to her and they. Asma, by the way, is the daughter of Abu Bakr, Abu Bakr, yes, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in, and she lived very long. She lived about 100 years, and she was very healthy and strong, and she wasn't sick. When she died, not one of her teeth had fallen. So Sayyidah Asma was being asked by her nieces about the menses. فكانت إحداهن تطهر ثم تصلي ثم تنتكس بالصفرة اليسيرة فتسألها فتقول. So she said that one of them would have the menstrual period, and then she would go into the phase of tahara, but then it goes back. So something happens there. So what do we do? And she would say, يَعْتَزِلْنَ الصَّلَاةَ مَا رَأَيْتُنَّ ذَلِكَ حَتَّى تَرَيِنَّ الْبَيَاضَ خَالِصًا. So if it is back and forth, if you think that, if the woman thinks that she's finished with her menses and all of a sudden it's back, you have to assume that it is the menses. The menses are still going on, so you have to avoid doing your salah. And this is, and the word used here is al-qudra, which is worse than the sufra. Okay, I'm sorry, the sufra, which is easier than the qudra. So if it is the sufra, then it applies to both the qudra and the sufra. So after, there's also another hadith that says, كنا لا نعد الصفرة والكدرة شيئا. Okay, so this is like a little contradictory. How do we understand this? This hadith says that we would not, when the sufra and the qudra, which we have just described as being part of the menses, we used to not consider it as the blood of the menses, and the scholars have simply answered, this hadith is simply like if the menses are finished and there's a long period and something happens, then that kadra or sufra is not really considered. So it depends on it being close to the regular period or it being further away. So if it's close to the regular period, then it's considered as the period, and if it's further away from the regular period, then it's not considered menstrual blood. And finally, awsafu dam al-hayd. How does it look? What does it feel like? And so on. Women know that. Again, women understand this. In fact, Imam Malik radiallahu anhu, he said he would ask the women, okay, he would ask them, and he said it is something that the women know. They knew what it is, okay, they knew. So he's confirming that what the hadith was describing is something which women really understand, and they go through it. So what is the description of this is, first it's thick, it is hot, and it is, when it happens, it may be causing pain to women, and it comes out strongly, and sometimes at one shot, and it is usually, like we've said in the beginning, in the category of black and red, and very, very dark. حمرا شديد الحمرة وقد يكون أسودا. And inshallah we'll stop here and we'll continue inshallah very soon. Okay. The last topic that we wanted to talk about is very simple, because it has to do with, go to Google and find out what is the youngest person who can have menses. You will find that medically between the age of 12 and 13 women become puber, but the youngest ever will be 9. 9 would be the youngest ever, and this is medically proven. So if the woman has blood before the age of 9, then it is not menstrual blood. But they would know. It's something that the women would know, and they can understand that. The oldest age that women can have blood is the age of 70, and if a woman at the age of 70 doubts whether it is this or that, then it is not that. But if it is between the age of 50 and she doubts, then she should assume that it is menstrual blood. وأقول على قولي أستغفر الله لي ولكم جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.